Hello, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I'm excited. I love doing podcasts, so thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, and I'm looking forward to chatting. But I'm going to begin, as I always do with my guests. Usually a regular thing on my podcast. I like to go back to when people kind of first started out in what they do, whether it be whatever profession. But of course, for you, it's music. And I wanted to ask you, how old were you, and when did you realise that music was a thing that you wanted to get into?
Um, I think I was a lot older than basically I grew up and I wanted to act. Um, I was in local drama clubs from a young age and did local plays and productions and pantomimes and things like that. Um, and I always sang in my bedroom, but no one really knew. I would never sing in front of people. And then when I was 13, I entered the school talent show. And so that was my first time singing on my own in front of an audience. And I remember after I didn't win the talent show, by the way. I'm not better, but whatever. Yeah, I remember after my mom and dad were watching it and they were like, Rachel, what? Like you can sing? And I was like, oh yeah, I think I can. And then I was always quite shy though, even after that. But yeah, I think I began singing at 13 and I loved it. And I was really interested in musical theatre. So I did like singing lessons and musical theatre grades and things like that. And then when I was 16, I was on The Voice UK and it kind of started, everything really started from then.
How big of a decision was that for you to go on The Voice? Because of course, there's a lot of people who have different opinions on these kind of shows.
Mm.
And what was it that made you go for it?
Well, I remember growing up watching The X Factor, and it was like years ago, The X Factor was huge. Like
Yeah,
it was
it was
at its
massive.
prime. I was around like 13, 14, even younger, like 10. And I always watched it and I always thought, oh, I'd love to do that, but I would never, ever have put myself forward because the thought of being on TV and I was always scared of not doing well, like getting kicked off or not getting through the first round of auditions. And I come from a really small village and a small town. And I just remember thinking, oh, I'd be so embarrassed. I couldn't do it. Like everyone from the village would be looking at me thinking, oh, what is she doing? And I just had no confidence. And then but I always did want to do something like that. But the voice came about really, really randomly. So I was doing my GCSEs at school and I was doing music, and the music teacher said, okay, the voice is coming to scout for people. They're going around Derry and whatever, all these towns, and they're going to scout for people. So can you all represent the school and just audition and doesn't have to be anything, just audition and represent the school and blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, okay. And then I was like, oh well, like I don't really want to be on TV. And they were like, well, you might not get through. And I was like, yeah, okay, fair, true. Might not even get that far. I'm thinking way ahead of myself. But yeah, so then I did a biology exam. Straight after that, I ran over to the music department, the voice producers or whatever. I don't know what their role was, but two of them were there. They were really lovely. It was all really chill. We just sang a song. They recorded it on a camera. I think the camera actually ran out of battery, so they had to do it on a phone. And then it all went from there. I just got an email then saying, hey, you're through, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of kept rolling. And I was like, what? So I felt like I didn't really get a chance to think about it because it was all just happening. And like, I didn't expect anything. Like, my family, none of us were expecting anything. And it just kept happening at each round. And we just were going with it. We were like, okay, cool, let's do it. Um, so obviously I did make a decision to do it as it was happening, but at the same time I felt like it was just I was going with the flow more than making a decision.
Maybe that was the best thing to do because then you don't have time to overthink it
Yeah,
and think what
I
could
agree.
what
Yeah.
could go wrong. 'Cause it must have been a scary thing because, like you say, it's all about public perception. Because if you go on and don't do very well, and you kind of feel you've embarrassed yourself, that might stick with you, and you might then be low on confidence after that. So it must have been a scary thing.
Yeah. Hold on. Thought I was gonna sneeze. Um, yeah, it was really scary, but I think I'd be more scared doing it now than I was back then. I think when you're younger, um, you're more fearless or something than when you grow up. But I always did have in the back of my head, like I'm quite a nervous person, and it's really weird because my job is to perform on stage and perform in front of people, but I'm really nervous, like
Yeah.
doing it, stage fright, and I just overthink things. So back then that was obviously you're thinking, okay, I'm not just doing this in front of a live audience, I'm doing it in front of a TV camera and there's millions going to be watching this, and what if I fall, or what if I go off tune and off key and blah blah blah. So I was really scared. I remember being petrified, like absolutely petrified before each round. Yeah, I remember I was petrified, and I was like in my head a lot. Obviously, that was my first time doing anything like that. Flip, that was huge. So I remember getting in my head a lot and overthinking the smallest things. Like I can't even remember. I just remember I was so nervous and anxious throughout it, but at the same time, I was loving every minute of it. It was really weird. And then once you were doing the show, you kind of forgot, like, I got a lot of support from home and everyone was so kind and lovely. So you kind of I was at ease thinking, oh well, not everyone at home is going to be laughing at me for doing this. Everyone was really supportive. So that kind of eased me a bit, but I was incredibly nervous throughout the whole process.
I can imagine because there is that. Of course, even because I can kind of relate to you a little bit because when I do my radio shows, I couldn't imagine doing something in front of a live audience. So I imagine like people think people who do do things in front of audiences and in front of public don't get nervous, but it's not the case at all, is it?
Yeah, no, not at all. And it's really like people laugh at me because people assume if you perform and public speaking, like you're a confident person. But I wish I was confident. I think I would get further if I was more confident. But no, I don't feel like I'm a confident person at all. It's really weird. But when I'm on stage, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm a different person. So I just kind of I like play a role or something. Like I have a like Beyonce, she has an ego and it's Sasha Fierce. So I always, my ego is, I don't really have a name for it, but I have like an ego on stage and that's a different person to what I am off stage.
I think it almost goes out the window as well because
Yeah.
kind of got adrenaline and being in the moment and enjoying it. So I think that kind of takes it away almost a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
But of course, you did exceptionally well and got 3 out of 4 judges turning round for you. That must have felt amazing
Yeah.
when they turned around.
I just remember I remember singing and they didn't turn around until the end. And I remember there was a point at the song where it was, building up and it was the biggest note, I guess, of the song. And I remember thinking, right, if they don't turn at this point, they're not turning around. And they didn't turn at that point. And I was like, oh my God, I'm out of here. I'm gonna have to go home. This is horrible. This is horrible. So yeah, they waited to the very last minute to turn around and I think I jumped up and down squealing. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
I think they try to trick you a little bit, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, they do. It's good for the TV.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course every TV show wants a little bit of drama, a little bit of a dramatic
Yeah,
effect.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But you picked Kylie Minogue. How was it working with her, and how did she benefit you on your path to a career in music?
It was great. I mean, Kylie is an icon, so I still can't believe I got to work with her. Like that was pretty mad. She was so lovely. She was really nurturing. Um, and she was really relatable because obviously she started, I was 16 at the time. She started her career at 16, and yeah, she was just giving good advice. Like she was making me feel at ease and stuff like that. But yeah, she was great throughout the process of The Voice. And then after The Voice, I remember I got voted out on the quarterfinal and I was devastated. I was so sad and I was trying not to cry on the camera. And Kylie was stood beside me and she was like, okay, I want you to meet my management company, A&P Artists.
Wow.
And I was like, what are you talking about? Trying to act really brave. I was like, no, I'm totally cool with this, guys. Yeah, and then she introduced me to her management company, and I was signed by them for a few years, and we worked together and started my solo stuff, and it got me into songwriting, and I developed a lot as an artist. I'm not with them anymore, but they really did, they helped kickstart my career because I just had no idea. I came, like I said, from a really small village. People don't really do what I do there. Like, yeah, people don't really do it. So I had no idea what to do or how to get into the industry. And Kylie and the management company really helped me like learn a lot and figure things out. And yeah, she was great, really great. I have a lot to thank her for.
That's very positive then. So you managed to take a lot from your experience on there into the rest of your music career.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
And I was going to ask, were you then more right? Because I know you said before you kind of didn't make a decision, you kind of went with the flow. But after The
Yeah.
Voice, were you like, right, music is for me, this is what I want to do?
Yeah. Um, I'm so indecisive that I hate making decisions. I hate it. So I would honestly rather have someone make my decisions for me for the rest of my life than have to choose things. But um after The Voice, I actually went back to school to finish off my AS levels. And then yeah, I signed with the management company, and then I got offered a role in Lord of the Dance. So they were opening in the London Palladium. Um, and yeah, and I got offered a role to understudy Nadine Coyle, who's also from Derry. So that
Oh,
was
yeah.
fun. Yeah. The management company at the time managed her as well. So she needed an understudy and I got picked to do it. And then I had to make a decision then with my mum and dad to leave school a year early to go and do this. And it was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it would have been nice maybe to finish, I was so close to finishing school, but at the end of the day, I knew I didn't want to go to university. And if I was going to further education, it would be to study performing arts. So I was kind of, there was no point to me wasting the money, not wasting it, but
Mm.
if I was getting a job now to start being in the industry and work in it, then why would I pay money to learn things that I could just learn on the job kind of thing? So yeah, so then I left school, had to make the decision to leave school, and mum and dad were supportive of it. And then I headed off on tour with Lord of the Dance for 5 years. I was with them actually.
5 years, wow.
Mm.
What was she like to work with? Because I've seen her on multiple shows, and she seems like a lovely person.
Nadine,
Yeah,
oh, she's great. I love Nadine. I honestly have so much time for her. She's really funny, really down to earth, like incredibly genuine. Really, really great person.
fantastic. And so you were there for 5 years. So was that from what was the first year doing that, and then when did you end?
So it was in, I think it was 2015. We started off in the London Palladium for 2 months, and I was doing a few nights a week and Nadine was doing a few nights a week. And then Nadine left and went on to do obviously her own career. And then I kind of took over full time. So after the 2 months in London, we went on to like a European tour. And it wasn't like, touring every day for 5 years. It was months here and there. But yeah, we toured all over the world, like Australia, Asia, Europe, UK, America. It was really, really great. And yeah, I finished up in 2020. We were actually in China and the coronavirus started. Yeah, coronavirus started. We had no idea what it was. We had to evacuate the country, basically. It was really dramatic. We were like, what is going on here? But yeah, so 2015 to 2020, I was with that show. And then COVID started, and I didn't leave the show because of COVID, because we left China and we thought, okay, we're going home, so coronavirus is going to stay in China and we won't see it ever again. So I just left the show because I needed something new, and I knew that if I didn't change something, nothing was going to change in my life at all, and I was going to be with the show for years and years and do the same thing. And I'd kind of just outgrown it and wanted to do my own music. So yeah, then I left and COVID started and I was like, oh, great.
So you just left a little bit earlier, but you probably would have ended up off the show anyway.
Yeah.
Because everything was just brought to a halt, wasn't it?
Yeah, everything was brought to a halt. And I was home in Ireland, and yeah, there was no music happening. I had no idea what I was doing. And then my dad owns a estate agency in Derry, and I went to work with him. Actually, my mom said to him, "I was like, please employ your daughter, because she has no work and she's just sitting about the house bored." So then, yeah, mom made dad employ me, and I worked with him for like a year and a half, nearly 2 years, I think. Yeah.
So that was kind of what taken up your time during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
And then in 2021, obviously it was big for you because the Duran Duran opportunity.
Yeah.
Arisen. How did that first come about? Because of course it was like kind of mid 2021, in like July onwards, we started to get live music back again.
Yeah.
So how did the opportunity come around?
So that was so random. So I was sat in my dad's office and I was pretending to work, and I got an email saying, hey, basically I got an email from a production manager that had worked in Lord of the Dance on my first year. He got in touch with me. I hadn't seen him. He was only there for a few months, so I only met him for like one tour, very briefly, and then never seen him again. And then he reached out, because he also worked with Duran. And he reached out and sent an email and said, hi, do you want to be put forward for a Duran Duran backing singer? You came to mind. And I thought it was a scam. I was like, what? Yeah. Who? Like, no way. And then, yeah, basically it all went from there. I was like, yep, absolutely. And a few weeks later, I was flying over to meet Simon and the tour manager. And I sang a couple songs. Like, I went through a few songs with Simon, and he made me sing some stuff of their new album. And basically then he was like, okay, cool, yeah, you're coming with us on tour. And I was like, what?
That must have been amazing.
Yeah, that was mad. It was really chill though. Like, people think it's this huge audition process, because obviously Duran Duran's huge, but yeah. I was like, no, I just rocked up, Yasmin opened the door, and it was really chill. It was great.
Well, that must have felt amazing when he said you were going on the road with them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was crazy. I was obviously petrified, because I was like, okay, where do I even start with learning songs here? But I did it.
Yeah, and you've certainly done a lot with Duran Duran over the last couple of years. But if I go back to what we spoke about earlier on in the podcast when you were speaking about sometimes being a bit shy going on stage, how when you first came to do the shows with Duran Duran, how did that feel? Because obviously Duran Duran are one of the biggest bands of the 80s that still
Yeah.
fill massive arenas, sell them
Yeah.
out. So how did that feel? Because like they play to almost as big audiences as you get.
Yeah. Well, that was there was just a lot going on at that time. Like I had so many songs to learn, everything was new. I'd never really performed with a live band before. It was always backing tracks, really. So I just remember being really overwhelmed, and I definitely had imposter syndrome for up until recently. I just couldn't believe that I was there with them,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe that I was like picked. I was like, what is going on? So I for a while, unfortunately, I didn't feel like I deserved it, because I was like, why am I here? What is going on? I'm so unexperienced compared to everyone. And I actually, up until recently, felt like that. So I was kind of, yeah. Then I think I don't know how I got over that. Well, I went to therapy actually. I went to therapy and I basically spoke to the woman about it. She was great, and she just helped me realize that it's it's not all luck. You
Yeah.
do deserve this. You're not picked for no reason. And I was like, okay. And then yeah, just it kind of it's got easier over time, but I do still get nervous. Madison Square Garden last year, I got nervous. I was like, oh my god, because I sing a solo or duet, a duet with Simon, um, and I get really nervous for that.
I imagine because that's literally taking center stage in like being in the
Yeah,
biggest piece of spotlight on the stage.
yeah, and I think I no one put pressure on me. Like Duran Duran are great to work for. Like they are so chill. We do a couple of rehearsals and they're like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And I'm like, oh, I need like 5 more rehearsals. But
Yeah.
they're very chill. And if anyone makes a mistake, it's not like you don't get told off or anything. They're just like, yeah, it's live music. That's what happens. And I'm like, wow, okay. So they're great. But I was putting this pressure on myself because it's like, okay, this is a huge, like, legendary band.
Yeah.
I don't want to be this new kid coming in and messing it up and everyone leaving thinking, who is that girl?
Yeah.
Like, she's awful. And I just didn't, I don't know, I just put this pressure on myself, but I'm slowly getting over it and I'm enjoying it. And yeah.
I think it's totally natural because it's pretty much what we spoke about with the voice earlier on when we said about how you felt kind of if you did something wrong, then people would have a certain
Yeah.
opinion leaving afterwards.
Yeah. And I've also realized that, and just not just on stage, but in life, like, you walk out the door and if you're wearing something maybe or whatever and you're thinking, oh, everyone's looking at me, and then you're like, I kind of realize no one cares about you. Like everyone's so self-obsessed. They're think that, no one's thinking about you. Like, get over yourself, basically. So once I remember that, I'm like, oh yeah, no one gives a crap about me. So I'm like, cool.
I think the main opinion that matters is your own opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a process. It definitely is. Like, I mean, there's some people it comes easily to be really confident in themselves, but I think definitely in this industry, because it's like there's constant competition and you're on stage for thousands to see, you are a bit more aware of yourself and your insecurities and stuff like that.
So it does sound like they are a good band to work with if they've put
Mm.
you at ease as well, which is a
Yeah.
massive thing.
Yeah. And they're really great at, they support you. Like, they don't need to introduce me on stage and give me a duet to sing with Simon Le Bon. Like, they didn't need to do that at all, but they're very much like, no, we're a band, you're part of it. come up front and sing a song, and I'm like, okay.
And as much as it is nerve wracking, there must be loads of highlights because Duran Duran has so many iconic songs. So, is there any highlights that stick out in particular? Because if I'm right, have you done a US tour and a UK, which has just finished recently?
Yeah. So
Now,
we just finished the UK tour. That was incredible. We did the O2, London O2, and I've always wanted. That was always a goal to sing it.
that must have been.
Yeah, and it was just crazy, and like the audience was mad, and there was really cool like guests, like Boy George was there, Pixie Lott was there, and it was just really yeah. Princess Beatrice was there, and I was like, what is going on? But yeah, that was a cool one. There's so many highlights. We did the Jimmy Kimmel show last year, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Jubilee party, just everything. Like everyone laughs on tour because I'm like the youngest and I'm like this excited puppy dog, because I have toured before, but it was a different level of touring with my last job. Like this is rock and roll, glam, private jets, like great hotels. I'm just like, this is the dream.
It must, because it must be such a surreal experience as well. Because I was going to point that one out actually, in particular the Jubilee party last June, which was obviously the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and it was actually televised, and millions of people around the country must have tuned into that one.
Yeah, that was mad. I just remember, I remember the rehearsal the day before, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then when I stepped on stage that night, I just remember being like, what is going on? Is this real life? Is this a dream? And there was like so many, the lineup for that gig was great. Like there was such huge names. So backstage, it was kind of like a little village of like cabins, which was the dressing rooms. And then there was a marquee, and you had like food and drink, and the concert was showing on the TV, so everyone was kind of watching it from there. And I honestly was beside myself with excitement. Like Alicia Keys was rocking about, Tom Daley, Mimi Webb, George Ezra, and I was just sat looking at everyone trying to play it really cool, but I was dying to run up and be like, can I have a photograph?
Yeah.
And now I regret not doing it. That's what you get for trying to play it cool. Kind
of fangirling almost over some of the people.
Honestly, anyone, I fangirl over anyone, from someone who's on I'm a celebrity, or to someone who's on, I don't know, the news presenter or Beyonce. I'm just like, yeah, wow, you're on the TV, you're great.
Well, we're Queen on as well, if I'm right in thinking back.
I didn't see it backstage though, annoyingly.
I think I remember them being on. What are your favourite songs to play live with Duran Duran then?
Favourite songs with Duran? I love the one I sing. So I sing Give It All Up from their new album, and it's a Tove Lo track. Tove Lo sings it on the album, and I just think Tove Lo's great. Like, she's so cool. So I love that one. I love singing Save a Prayer, which is a classic.
Yeah.
Hungry Like a Wolf.
Yeah, iconic.
Iconic. Yeah. Love that one. There's a lot of fun ones. Girls on Film. Yeah.
Yeah, it just must be an amazing experience when you are, obviously there is nerves, but when you're in the moment, it must feel fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the start I think I was in my head during the performances, so I was getting really nervous, and then I wasn't like in the moment kind of thing, and I would come off stage and I'd be annoyed because I would be thinking, well, you didn't enjoy that as much because you're too in your head thinking of other things. Whereas now I make sure to like I use meditation and journaling and stuff like that, and I try get myself really present in the moment so that I enjoy every bit of it, because some of these things might not ever happen again, type of thing.
And a lot of the time I find as well, time just flies. It just doesn't wait for you. It just like goes like that almost. Like by the time I imagine for you, when you're thinking of starting a tour, and by the time you think about it again, it's finished.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Like,
yeah.
yeah, because we're heading on tour now. I'm heading back
And
on tour with them
the
in 2 weeks.
US is, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't believe how quickly it came about. Like, it's just happened so fast, so fast.
So if you're back to the US again, and that's quite another big tour, isn't it?
Yeah, that's 4 weeks, that one. And then at the end of summer, we have another 4 week American tour as well.
Wow, so it's a long
Yeah.
long time on the road, but I bet going to all these amazing places must just be
Yeah,
fantastic.
I love it. I really love it. I mean, when I did the Irish dancing show, when I did that, and toured with them, we were probably touring for like at least 2 months. It was never normally shorter than 2 months. And the longest I was away was 4 months. So doing
Yeah.
a month with Duran, I'm just like, this is easy. I love it.
Yeah. So at least kind of used to it in that respect.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about your own music now because how is it how is it kind of tying that in with the Duran Duran tours? Because of course, like being on the road for so long, I
Yeah.
imagine you'll be busy. But then again, thinking about it when you are on a long tour, there's got to be time where you do have 3 hours to work on your own stuff.
Yeah. I mean, touring is great. During the day, I'm basically free during the day, to do whatever I need to do. And then we have the shows at night. But I I think the key of like doing it alongside doing back and singing is being, prepared and being organized. So
Mm.
basically, last January, I was over in Sweden and I finished up a few songs, and they're going to be the songs that I'm releasing all through this year. And then a month ago, I was in Sweden again and I recorded songs that I'm going to release next year. So really, I try to like, have everything, all the songs done a year in advance, not like completely finished, but
But kind of
written and
organized, yeah.
chosen, yeah, and kind of planned out, what months we're going to release what songs. Um, so yeah, I'm releasing a new one now in 2 weeks' time, and I'm really excited. I just because I've sat on these songs. I've started writing since the age of like 17, and I've had some of these songs since then, and I've wanted to release them, and it was never the right time. And then last year I turned 25 and I was like, right, we are releasing. I'm close to 30 here. We are releasing songs. We need to be a pop star.
Yeah. of, of course, you released Domino last November,
Mhm.
and then sorry, not sorry, which was a few weeks back. Well, it is
Yeah,
to me January. I can't believe we're in May already, to
I
be
can't believe
honest. But
that. Can't
um,
believe.
so yeah, I still think January is a few weeks back. But um, how did you kind of what do you structure your songwriting on? Like, did you have an idea of the kind of artist you wanted to be as a solo artist?
Um, I always knew that I wanted to do pop. Like that
Mm.
was, that's my genre. Um, Pop princess, Kylie Minogue. Like,
Yeah,
that's the vibe I always knew was gonna go for. And it wasn't that I chose to be that. I think that was just naturally the songs I listened to, the way I dress. It's just me, I guess. So I always knew that was what I wanted to be. And songwriting, no, I mean, I like writing songs that I used to always write from just experiences that I've had. So just really rubbish ex-boyfriends basically was the main focal point of every song. But then I think someone said to me, okay, we really need to broaden the horizons. We need to write about other things. So I just kind of write about whatever I'm feeling, or sometimes I hear a word. I'm in a conversation with someone and someone says a word like, I don't know, it could be, something you've said today, and it'll stick out to me and I'll write it down. So I have a list on my
yeah.
phone like random words and phrases and subjects. I hope no one ever breaks into my phone to read that, but hopefully. So yeah, I have a random notes page, and sometimes I'll just build a song around a word, and sometimes I'll maybe read a book, and the storyline of that book's really cool, so I'll write as if I'm the character and this all happened to me, or I'll write over my friends' experiences. Really,
just kind of putting kind of emotions and things that you're hearing into the
yeah,
songs. Yeah,
yeah,
it's kind
sure.
of real life writing.
Yeah, real life writing. I like doing that.
And I want to ask you now: is there anything you would like to say about what's coming up over the next couple of weeks for you and throughout the rest of the year for your own
For
solo
my own
career?
stuff. Yeah, so in 2 weeks' time we're releasing a song. It's actually a cover of Whitney Houston's Step by Step. Well, it's originally an Annie Lennox song. Then Whitney did a version, and then yeah, now I'm releasing my own version, and that's going to be out on the 26th. I haven't actually announced that, so this is an exclusive.
Exclusive. First bit of information here.
Yeah, that's going to be out on the 26th of May. And I'm really excited to get it out because I love that song. I always have. But it's funny, like listening to it now, like I always bopped about to it, years ago. But now that I've done my own version, and I find the lyrics are really relatable, and I played it to my friends, and we were all like, wow, this really relates to our life right now, because we're all like 25, 26, 27, just figuring life out. Some of us are, some of my friends are getting married and having babies. Some of us are still not sure where we want to live, or what we want to do. So yeah, it's kind of just about like taking everything step by step. And the same in my music career, I'm kind of just going with the flow, taking things as they come. And yeah, I'm excited to get that out. And then after that, during summer, hopefully we have another original coming out. And I think the plan is just to keep dishing out singles, and just build a profile for myself, build a name, hopefully get a live show and have an audience. That scares me. The thought of trying to sell tickets and no one coming to my show, that scares me so much.
I imagine that would be something to be worried about as a musician.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I was going to say, is that something you would like to do? Because of course, when you have a break from touring with Duran Duran, is that something you would like to look into, some live shows?
For sure. I would love a live show of my own. Would love it. Obviously the dream would be to have my own tour like Duran Duran, and be flying about, jetting about America, singing my own songs. That would be the dream in years to come. But yeah, we'll start small. We'll not jump in that far yet, but I would love like a small show, either at home in Derry or in London or anywhere. I would sing anywhere.
I'm sure that will work out for you.
Hopefully.
And I look forward to seeing the rest of your journey. And I was going to say, do you want to say where people can find you? Because I know Spotify is probably the main place.
Sure. Spotify, Apple Music, you can get my stuff, Deezer, YouTube, Amazon Music. I think all of them, any streaming platform these days, just search my name. And catch me on Instagram and TikTok and all that fun stuff.
all the social media sites.
Yeah.
And Rachel, that brings us to a close now. And I'd like to thank you so much for coming on and being a fantastic guest today.
Thank you very much for having me. It was lovely to chat to you.